Welcome to ceramic bead making with Earthnocturne. This is forming by hand part 5. We'll be rolling some coils today and cutting pendants and beads out of those coils. We'll begin with cylinders and cubes cut from coils and some heishi beads or spacer beads. You can see there too. First I'll roll out a coil. If you haven't rolled out coils before, you can find lots of videos on how to roll those. I'm not that terrific at it, so I won't show you how to do that. I'll let you discover that on your own. You see, I flattened a coil with a board there to make it square. And I'm cutting it with a knife. You can do this, but it's quite difficult to keep them even and at the same size. Instead, you may want to use a cutting mat to make it easier to keep the pieces even. What I like to use is a cheese cutter. This makes a very even cut. You can see I have a mark there on the board to measure. And I rotate the coil after each cut so that it doesn't get distorted from cutting on one side. Here I'm making cylinders in the same way. And some heishi beads, some spacers. Just clean off the cutter in between cuts. You'll have a little bit of some excess clay on the side. You can use a knife to clean those off. Or a wax dauber or a rib will also work to clean those. And then just soften it with the fingers and roll the edges to make them a little softer. You can use water to make the hole while the clay is still wet. It will go through pretty easy on these shorter beads. On the longer beads I use WD-40 or any light oil so that the needle passes through cleanly and smoothly. I'll push it in one direction. When I see the tip at the other end, push it back the other direction. That keeps clay from coming out the top too much. Next is a teardrop pendant, a drop pendant with a dimple in it, an impression, a round impression. It's good for putting a different glaze on. After you've dipped it in one glaze, you can put a separate glaze into the dimple and make a nice little different color. So you'll see I've made a regular coil and then pinched the tops of it to form the teardrop. I'm keeping the ends flat. I don't want that to be too pointy or it gets fragile if it's too much of a point. And now I'm using that wood board again to flatten the edges and keep it even. And once again using the cheese cutter to make the cuts nice and even. You can make them 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, whatever size you'd like. I don't usually use sponges on the edges because on stoneware, water tends to bring the grog up to the surface. But I can use a very light, damp sponge on there and use my fingers to soften the edges. And now I'm using a wax dauber just to clean that excess clay off around the hole, and a knitting needle to smooth it out. This tool is from a damping block. It's what metalsmiths use to stamp copper and other metals. You can use a marble or another round tip tool to impress. Just put some oil on it like I did there, otherwise it will stick. This one's a little bit larger, so I'm going to make the hole a little bit larger. And that will do it for this video. Please join me next time for forming by hand, where we'll make some wrapped coils. Thanks for watching.